So I've been avoiding this video. I have to take a deep breath before I start talking about it, before the XRP army completely destroys my channel with their relentless. I'm going to say that 3 times.
Give them nothing, but take from them everything. Stay!
Attacks against people that don't talk good about XRP, but you know how we do it on this channel. I do not hold anything back. I am not paid by anybody. Everything I tell you guys is my exact opinions and my thoughts. And I try to keep it very truthful. Keep watching. In this video, we'll be talking about XRP. We're seeing pumps, right? There's like these crazy 40% XRP pumps. If you guys don't know, they are currently being sued by the SEC for launching and profiting off of security. Okay, so they're being sued as we speak. This is not the first time they got sued. So we're gonna go over some history. We're gonna be diving into the official website of the SEC. We're gonna be looking into the Howey test, okay, to see if it's a security, coming up with my own conclusions, right? So I've been in cryptocurrency for a long time. I've seen the good and the bad publicity for XRP. We're gonna come to an actual equal ground. You guys know it's getting delisted. We're not gonna be talking about like the recent news that's going on with the investors, that are suing XRP. We're not gonna be talking about all the basic stuff that everybody has already told you. We're gonna be talking about on a deep fundamental level, what is actually going on with Ripple and XRP. And I'm gonna back up everything I say with evidence like the classic style of this video. And if you appreciate that, do us both a favor, hit that subscribe button, as well as the push notification bell. I try to give you guys high quality, very, very accurate and truthful information. And I back up everything I say with facts, or I try to, and I try to keep things down to earth. There's no reason to flex ego in any situation. Essentially, I'm gonna tell you guys the truth. If you don't like the truth, I am not gonna make you feel comfortable, because that's all I talk about. So do us both a favor, hit that subscribe button. Let me jump into the actual video. Let me jump into the actual screen so I can give you actual evidence. All right, guys, so I'm gonna jump into actual research behind Ripple. We're gonna be talking about their consensus mechanism. We're gonna be talking about the SEC, exactly why they're suing them, and for the reasons. We're gonna go over the Howey test, et cetera, et cetera. But there's one thing I do wanna tell you guys. I'm not gonna dive extremely deep because I am not personally invested in XRP myself. I believe that there's just way too much negativity involved in it right now. And there's no reason to take on all that extra risk when there's other coins that have the same potential, if not more potential, that have no problem surrounding it. So there's no reason for me to be emotionally attached to any of this. Essentially, what I want to do is I want to point you in the right direction so you're understanding exactly what's going on and you're looking at it from both sides, right? Because a lot of people get emotionally involved in this for some reason. It's like a very sticky subject for XRP. Maybe you have too much of it. You definitely need to diversify a little bit more for safety or whatever the case is, and look into some other projects, because there's no reason why anybody should feel so strongly about just one project. There's no need for tribalism, guys. The only one that I can probably look at as maybe something that's tribalism is probably Bitcoin, being that it's the first of its kind, right? And it's gonna have fans like that, but for, I don't know, whatever. This is just my opinions. But as you can see on the screen right here, they are being sued by the SEC. I'm sure all of you have heard of it. Now there's all this news about, Coinbase being sued now because they helped sell XRP. Now we have all these exchanges delisting XRP, like big exchanges. We're talking about Binance, the big ones, guys. The big ones are delisting XRP. We have former employees at Ripple Labs suing Ripple Labs, right? A lot of negative publicity for Ripple Labs and XRP, being that they're tied together. And this is not the first time they've been sued. This is probably like the 5th time they've been sued by multiple entities, investors. A lot of people are agreeing with me, guys. It's just they have a lot of money, so they bury it a lot in a lot of cases. But let me explain what I'm saying in very specific terms. We're going to dive into the actual consensus mechanism so you guys understand what I'm saying. So the first thing I want to show you before we get into that is the Howey test. And the reason why it's important is because this test is actually used to classify anything as a security. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be money. There's been a lot of cases where people were selling contracts and reclassified as securities. It's a very broad test, and we could dive deeper into it because they have more information specifically made for digital currencies. But this is the original test. Let's read it really quickly. So basically, it classifies as security if it is an investment of money. 2, there is an expectation of profits from the investment. 3, the investment of money is common enterprise. 4, any profit comes from the efforts of a promoter or third party. Again, like I said, this is a very vague explanation. And really quickly, guys, I am not a lawyer. Some of this might be incorrect. I want you guys to follow it back up with your own research. I'm human, just like anybody else. And I just want to be very clear. None of this is financial advice, and I am not a lawyer. I'm just going to refer you to the resources so you can dive into it for yourself. And then I'm going to give you my personal opinion It's so obvious. Like you don't need to be a lawyer to know if you should be invested in XRP. And I'll give you my personal opinion on what I actually think, because it could be a money making opportunity. Ripple can like 200, 300%. It's so far below. It can even, 20, 30x. So we have to look at this in a very serious manner, right? Exactly what's going on. So let's go to an actual framework. Okay, this is the framework for digital assets specifically. Now, you guys, I read it for, again, like my research purposes, but let's go over the Howey test one more time. So it's very specific here. A, the investment of money. The first prong of a Howey test is typically satisfied in an offer and sale of a digital asset because that digital asset is purchased or otherwise acquired in exchange for value, whether in the form of a real or fiat currency, another digital asset, or other type of consideration. So essentially what they're saying there is, did somebody accept a form of payment for XRP tokens? The answer is yes. I don't have to argue with anybody on that. The original owners of XRP own the vast majority of the supply. They gave it to exchanges, which they, exchanged it for Bitcoin, Ethereum. You could have bought XRP with any digital asset. And they're explaining there that it doesn't have to be like fiat currencies. It could be, another exchange of value. And this is a clear yes. I'm sure they won't even argue with this. So this is the part that we're not really arguing about, at least in this lawsuit, right? So let's move on to the next one. B, common enterprise. Now, this is going to be a little bit harder to come to a conclusion on, but if you understand the consensus mechanism and how centralized it is, we'll go over it. So courts generally have analyzed a common enterprise as a distinct element of an investment contract. In evaluating digital assets, we have found that a common enterprise typically exists. So if we look at it, for example, let me just give you a brief explanation. If XRP is centralized in one way or another, and Ripple has a take in that centralization, essentially, if you take down Ripple Labs, then there goes XRP. And this will be considered common enterprise. On the flip side, in Bitcoin, for example, if all the big, mining facilities and nodes were taken down by government authority or something, like let's say, somebody comes and takes down all the major networks of Bitcoin. Is it common enterprise? Are you going to take down Bitcoin? No, it's a peer-to-peer technology, fully decentralized. At that point, it will make it profitable for a person like me to mine Bitcoin because all the big institutions, there's no more competition anymore. I would simply turn my graphics card on or an ASIC miner or a computer and start mining Bitcoin. Now, you could do the same thing with XRP, but what the problem is, and where people don't understand, the incentivized model doesn't favor other people. It doesn't favor decentralization. The way they pay people and incentivize people is very centralized. Let me explain more. So if we go into the history of Google, not just the front page that you see in 2020, these guys are great with SEO. If you don't believe me, go research and read a book. Trust me, I'm lying. It's really, really important that you guys understand how to research things properly. If you're not researching things properly, you will be misled consistently, and you will lose out on your investments. There is a whole framework for just looking up the correct articles and backing your research up with credibility. If you don't do that, I highly suggest that you guys find some type of system. I have created a system for you, so you can go ahead and check out my website, thefundamentalsecrets.com. The link is in the description below. If you want just to, take the guesswork out of all this research, because I know it can be misleading. There's a lot of smart people misleading people on the internet. Guys, I make a framework for you. My goal is not to tell you what to do. My goal is to provide you with something that's going to get you to the truth. And that's what I've done for you. So go ahead again to the link in the description below, thefundamentalsecrets.com. All you have to do is click the apply button, and my coach will reach out to you, and then he'll show you if that's a right fit for you. But yeah, let me jump back into the research because I did it for you, right? I looked into it for myself. And the one thing I want to show you is right here. For example, the unique node list is the big topic of discussion, right? Now, this is from the Ripple website, so let's just read what they said. Since anybody can run a validator, the burden is on the network participants to choose a reliable set, okay? Currently, Ripple provides a default and recommended list, which we can expand based on watching the history of validators run by Ripple and third parties. They literally put themselves under the bus right here. Let's read it again. Ripple provides a default and recommended list, which we expand based on watching the history of validators run by the Ripple and third parties. Eventually, Ripple intends to remove itself from this process entirely by having a network participant select their own list based on publicly available data about the validator quality. So they're legitimately throwing themselves under the bus, as you can see right here. Now they're trying to do everything in their power to make it seem like that's not the case, right? So they're trying to be transparent. They're kind of playing that line, right? the line between the truth and false reality. If Ripple recommends adoption of his unique node list, does it create a centralized system? No. The XRP ledger is opt-in. Each participant directly or indirectly chooses its unique node list. Should Ripple stop operating or should Ripple act maliciously, participants could change their UNLs to continue using the XRP ledger. Now, this is where it gets messed up because I just told you guys, they're centralized. They have a recommendation list that you could use, right? So let's say you're a node operator and you want to be a part of the Ripple, consensus mechanism and get incentivized for it. So you get paid for doing this, for running a whole node, you get paid for doing this. So you have an option to make. You can create your own UNL, okay, and run it as a global validator, because there's two different parts. And I know this is going to get a little bit confusing, but there's two different parts to, there's a global validator and there's a local validator. And the local validator is basically the ultimate decision. So you can actually change your unique node list to make your own and pick your own validators. You can pick your own validators. But the problem with that is that there's a lot of risk. One, you don't get paid that much if you don't go with Ripples, right? Two, there's a lot of security risk, right? If you guys understand how this works, essentially, if another validator messes up, you can get slashed. There's all types of reward mechanisms that you can lose if you don't just use their unique default node list, essentially. So everything it's not, they give it, let me read more because, I'm not an expert on this. I'm not a programmer or anything, but this was actually wrote by Peter Todd. Okay. You guys can look into it for yourself. This was actually wrote in 2015. You're not going to find this information if you're just searching, in the past 2 years. You have to go to Google, press tools, and it shows you, look in the history, guys. The history will tell you the truth, right? So let's go all the way to the bottom. I'm not going to read this. You can read it for yourself. It's a whole report written on it, but it's very clear. It says it right here in the conclusion. Okay, nearly all attack scenarios analyzed above are direct outcomes of the need for consensus. So essentially, all the attack vectors that they talked about in this report is the gateway to that, to it being vulnerable and to it not being vulnerable is the need for consensus. Just like any other blockchain, consensus is the reason why Bitcoin is so secure. People have to come to consensus to make decisions like what is the next block on the public ledger, essentially. So we really need decentralized consensus for the attack vectors not to, demolish Ripple, okay? Now let's read this. That the consensus requirement is for global consensus rather than the original Ripple's local consensus creates additional problems, such as coordination of the UNLs incentivizes for such coordination and unclear incentives for validating nodes to validate correctly or honestly. Finally, the requirement of global consensus, what I just told you guys, creates scalability concerns and jurisdictional concerns. A key question that should be answered in the future work is if the goals of the Ripple system need global consensus at all. Question, if global consensus can be avoided or at least it's minimized or whatever, the issues will go away. So essentially what they're saying is global consensus is irrelevant. All the consensus is deriving from their local consensus, which is recommended by Ripple Labs, okay? Do you guys understand where I'm going here? So if we go back to the Howey test, let's revisit this question. So let's go back to Common Enterprise B. Essentially what they're asking, is it Common Enterprise? Right now, I would say it is. I would say yes, there's a yes to this. And the reason for that is because Ripple Labs is basically running a network. They have control over the 33. Let me just make it very simple because they actually explained it on Reddit, but it's very simple right here. XRP uses only its own RPCA, Ripple protocol consensus algorithm, has roughly 1,000 nodes. 33 nodes must finalize a transaction. This code refers to as what we've been talking about, the unique node list. Ripple, the company, hand selects the unique node list. Surprise, they pick who can oversee transaction. They can incentivize them, they can pay them, they can do whatever they want because they hand select them. Bitcoin has over 100 forks because it is decentralized. XRP has 0 forks. Why do they not have forks? Because nobody is conflicting. The 33 nodes are just doing what they say, essentially. This is like a very, kind of explain to a baby explanation that I thought it was useful. So if we're looking at the, second part with Common Enterprise, yes, I believe that the whole entire network would not fall immediately, but it will definitely lose ridiculous value if Ripple Labs wasn't a part of it. So yes, I do believe they have managerial efforts, they have marketing efforts that they apply to XRP and the increased value of it. They do a lot of things to make sure XRP is increasing in value. And it's a little bit different with Bitcoin. The community and the world does that. if that makes sense. So now the last one, reasonable expectation of profits derived from the effort of others. Guys, it is as clear as daylight. I shouldn't have to explain this to you anymore, but essentially when they launched, the two owners had about 80% of the supply. They gave it to exchanges. They made billions of dollars. I mean, I don't know how else do you want me to explain it. Let's read this part right here because I thought it was pretty important. When a promoter, sponsor, or third party or affiliated group of third parties, each an active participant, provides essential managerial efforts that affect the success of an enterprise, and investors reasonably expect to derive profits from these efforts, then this prong of the test is met. I think personally, just after my research and what I've seen in the past and how I've seen other people sue them and how I've seen other exchanges come out the woodworks and call it centralized and all of this negative publicity that's happening, the SEC is not BS, guys. They know what's going on a very deep level. My personal recommendation, guys, is understand, regardless if they win this lawsuit or not, why would you want to hold the bag through that? It doesn't make sense. Let's look at CoinMarketCap, for example. It does not make sense that people would want to hold this coin because, as you can see, it's top 4 on CoinMarketCap. Meaning, yes, it can increase in percentages and make us money, but so can Cardano, so could Polkadot, and I would argue to say it would probably increase a little bit more. So could Chainlink. These coins have not been sued by the SEC, and think about it, guys. Ethereum still has a lot of profit to be made. Let's look at the market cap, for example. The market cap is 14 billion, right? Guys. It doesn't have room to grow. I don't know why. This is not an asymmetrical bet anymore. It was an asymmetrical bet before SEC came and sued them. But now the fact that they're suing them, the fact that all these exchanges are delisting them, think about this, guys. Think about the delist. Like, regardless of the news, the fact that they're taking them off the exchange, it's canceling liquidity. It's canceling all liquidity. Think about the big, hedge fund investors that have millions of dollars. Their biggest reason for entering a position is liquidity, right? They're canceling all of that from all the exchanges. There's all this negative publicity. It's going to be continued negative publicity because, one, it's easy to get clicks with the Ripple name, and these media outlets, it's so easy for them. And two, because it's just going to happen for the next year, and it's going to be prolonged negative news, delistings, lowered liquidity for XRP. Guys, I'm not saying it's going to go to zero. I'm just saying there's better opportunities out there that you need to be aware of and you need to be looking at and not getting emotional with your, Ripple XRP investment. And one more thing I did want to say about the banker's coin and stuff like that. Think about it. If it was really a banker's coin, right? Let's think about the world's central banks. I think this premise is flawed from the beginning as well. If it really was a banker's coin, why would the bankers give all of their, power away to 2 people that own Ripple Labs? They know what's going on. It doesn't make sense. If it's centralized, none of it makes sense because these 2 guys profit from everybody else's work. The central, they're not giving up that power, guys. They're not going to give it up. What's most likely going to happen is the central banks are going to make their own, fiat currency or something. They're going to make their own currency. Why would they give it to Ripple? Does not make sense. They're going to make their own to have their own power. The original premise, the original thesis of Ripple Labs, I think was flawed from the beginning, personally. And if a bank was going to adopt it, it's going to be Bitcoin. They're going to have some type of, they're going to basically accumulate a lot of Bitcoin, take loans out in their own central bank currency. That's what's most likely going to happen, more likely. Bitcoin is the banker's coin, not XRP, guys. I'm just going to be very clear with you. This is my personal opinions, though. Again, I am not a lawyer, so do the research for yourself. You know what you're looking at. I leave the tabs. You guys can go to the tabs that I'm researching. I think the most important one right here is Google search the framework investment contract analysis digital assets. And read that right there. That should give you all your answers. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. If you like the quality of this content, hit like. If you don't, leave some constructive criticism. Subscribe for more video updates. And like I always say, if you don't get with this technology, you will get left behind.